At 40th and Pine Lake in Lincoln, this is a star. It's one of the first things that we blasted and powder coated. So this would have been way back in 2014. Originally it was a ag yellow. As you can see, probably from the video here, it has faded quite a bit. So there's still a little bit of a yellow to it, but it used to be a really, really bright yellow. There's starting to be some rust in some spots, but this has held up pretty good for being since 2014. And so that's about been 7 years ago. 9 years ago, I guess. 9 years ago. The rusting is starting to come through. That's just probably where the coating was thinner. We would have blasted this first, then we would have put on 2 coats of powder. A little bit more rust down at the base. That's probably where a lot of snow builds up in the winter around welded areas. We usually are seeing that, but there's nothing that's like super bad for after 9 years where it's totally flaking off anywhere. That's really because we blasted it first and then we pre-treated it and powder coated it. So this has actually aged pretty well. Most of the time we don't give warranties, but I usually tell people if we're blasting and powder coating, they don't need to worry about it for 5 years. Since this has been about 9 years, this is the first time I've actually seen it up close. I drive by it on the street, but this makes me pretty happy that it looks this good. The only thing that we could do different with to make it not fade, it's definitely going to be fading after about 9 years, but there are different powder formulations. You get really, really expensive powders that would hold up for 10 or 15 years and not fade, but that wouldn't have been economical in this particular case. Right down the middle here, something that's interesting is it looks like it might be fully welded, but it's not. There's just 3 stitch welds, and then down the middle we actually put a seam sealer. You can kind of see where it's been cracked here, but that did really well too, because a lot of the time when you've got if we would have had an open seam there, definitely water would have got in that seam and rusted. You would have seen a lot of rust, and we probably would see powder flaking off around these welds. We just see a little bit of rust peeking through here, but nothing where it's delaminating or anything. So to get an idea of the fading, this faces the sun when the sun's setting. This is west heading this way. So we come over here where you're kind of looking north now, and you can see where it does get a little bit of shade and it's not constantly in sun. It's not faded as much, and you actually can see a little bit higher gloss. And in the backside of this is higher gloss than the other side. So when we're talking about chalking and fading, we're talking about losing the color, and we're talking about losing gloss as well. And that's just because of the sun. If we come to the backside here, also glossier because it's pitched down. So when the sun's rising, there's also some trees behind us, so this doesn't get as much direct sunlight. So this is closer to original color. Not exactly, but closer. Probably over here is about the closest down through here. This is about original color right up here. So actually, as you walk around the star, you can kind of see how the powder fades, loses color, and then also loses gloss.